On June 12th, I woke up to terrible update, terrible news that one of our pastors, very close elder and pastor and brother to me, had passed away. I'm talking about Pastor Hospa Sibanda. Many of you may not know him. You may not have seen him many times on MelVee. But he is a pastor and a brother that I've known for many, many years. In fact, when I arrived in this country of South Africa to take on my appointment and work assignment, I arrived when the city of Pretoria Central Church was having a 2 weeks crusade with Pastor Joshua Maponga. And so during my induction month, two weeks of that was to spend it with this church. And what a time I had with the saints. And that's when I saw him coordinating and singing. But I'd known him from before. And so when I told him I'm relocating to Pretoria, and he said, "This is your church. When you come back here." And so I landed here and definitely found myself a member of Pretoria Central SDA Church, and I served with him. It was an honor. I could easily see how gifted he was in music, in speaking and teaching and evangelism methods. And a few months down the line since arriving at that church, something happened at Pretoria. I'm not sure what it was, but it landed him in prison. And apparently the people who took him there were church members. And the story was a very painful one. I got even much closer to the family at that time. When he got out, I thought he would be angry, he would change churches, he would go after a few people. But no, he came out as if nothing had happened. He continued loving his Lord. He continued serving his Lord. And I remember him saying, "You know what? Pretoria Church has become too big. We need to set up a branch." And his idea was we shouldn't even go far. Right there on the peripheries of Pretoria, let's set up Berea. So we went to Founders, got a place. One Sunday morning, invited a lot of other young people. I drove there with my son and we started cleaning the church, one of the classrooms, which was very dirty. We had to clean it and scrub it and prepare it for church. And he was there. The first service of Berea International, his idea was this is going to be a home of all nations, because that area was very populated with people from other nations. And today, Berea is one of the most thriving churches. You wouldn't miss him in music. You wouldn't miss him in evangelism work. He was there in the forefront and doing all he can. But I also knew him as a brother, a big brother. I remember many of our conversations we were having, because we come from the same province in the same area. He was like, "I know your people. I know so and so. I know so and so. You are my young brother." And that was the theme of our discussion until after his retirement from pastoral ministry. He says, "Oops, one of my young brothers is married into this family, the Mangama. Do you know them?" And I said, "Yes, I do. Those are my brothers." He says, "Oops." And I said, "Yep, finally, checkmate. I'm no longer your young brother now. I am your babazala, your father-in-law." And we laughed about these things. And told me about how the Lord was keeping him, and he was sharing with me pictures of what he was doing at his place that he had retired to. But one of the most memorable memories I have of him was when the Lord blessed us with our twins. That was 2007. I was still a member of Berea. He was so thrilled. He gathered the whole church to come to our house. There was no church service there that afternoon. Everyone drove to Centurion to come and see these special twins, and we spent quality time as a church here, and I was quite blessed. He was like the MC for that program. He spoke, he's led in music, he coordinated the program, he blessed the little ones. And that was a special moment I shared with him. We had many special moments as I visited his home when he was staying in the CBD Berea area. I remember when he even moved out to Pretoria West, and I would sometimes drive him with his family after church Sabbath to go and drop him at his place. On Sundays we'd visit one another. And we kept praying and thanking God how far he had led him. So the news of his death on the 12th of June really took me by surprise. It shocked me. I just could not believe. Even now I struggle to believe that he is no longer in the land of the living. When I heard the story of what happened, I realized that no one of God's people will die when God has not allowed it, and also when they have not finished their mission. This man had lived his full life, had done everything God had said he must do, has been given a full life, 70 years plus, and he rests because his time is done. I was listening to his wife, my guru, narrate that he has never slept down on a bed of sickness. But within a very short space of time, he got sick and he died. You know, this is a man that every time you meet him, you would say, Bamnin, kusimba kwajere, kungatobuda mapepa now. You know, by that he meant the way he is so strong, even the newspapers might just write an article and publish his health. And indeed, he lived a very humble, simple life, trained his family and his boys in the way of the Lord. A very humble family. He could interact at any level. You name it, he was presidential, he was stately, yet he was so humble, so educated and so eloquent, gifted immensely on music. And I'll miss him. I will definitely miss him. I kept asking him if we could do a recording, and he kept postponing it and saying, no, don't worry, my young brother. Do what you have to do. Praying for you. He went away with perhaps recordings I should have done of him. But I guess we'll do it when it's new in heaven. I think there'll be a story we shall sit down and talk about when we explain to Paul how we did Johannesburg for Christ, how we built new churches in the cities, and how he confirmed the saints in the word of the Lord across Gauteng, across the world, and in many places, even in his retirement. He sent me a message the other day and a poster telling me he's preaching at a campaign somewhere. And I said, I thought you were retired. He said, no, I've not retired from mission. And so, as I remember him, and as I recall the years I've spent in Pretoria with him since 2005, I fondly remember him as a man who never gave up. Not on God. Secondly, he never gave up on his family. They went through difficult times, but that man stood with his family and raised a well-rounded, mature young people who are now standing in spaces and making a difference in the kingdom of God in their own way. I will miss him because he was immensely gifted in the word and in teaching it. and in the networks that he built. This is a man who might not have had a lot of money, but his networks were powerful and they worked to unlock certain doors for mission. I mean, Berea was not the only church he established. Neither is Pretoria Central. There are many other congregations that he